I'm Timothy Vigil, and this is Just Another Word podcast, the Word of the Day podcast for storytellers. S is for Sonder. Everyone is the hero of their own story, if you let them talk long enough. And Lamont. I once met a woman on a plane. She was on her way to Las Vegas to get married. I was taking a connecting flight through Vegas. She'd only known this guy who she was going to marry for about 3 months. But she was convinced, and she kept telling me she was, that this was the right move. We spoke for nearly the entire flight. It wasn't very long, only an hour and a half or so. But by the end, I was convinced of something else. It seemed like she was looking for a reason not to go through with it. But I just met this woman an hour before. But as we landed, I just felt compelled to ask her one last time, "Are you sure you want to do this?" She didn't answer for a while, and to be honest, I'd assumed I'd crossed a line, that I'd made her upset, that I'd pissed her off. But as we were deboarding, she stopped, and she said, "Thanks for talking with me for so long." She gave me a hug as we left the jet terminal, and she went on her way. I headed to my next gate, and she left. We didn't talk about it, and she never answered my question. To this day, I still have no idea if she got married or not. That woman is the definition of Sonder. See, the word is a modern addition to our lexicon. It was coined by John Koenig from the Dictionary of Obscure Sorrows. And it's a word used to describe the sudden flash of insight that you get while you're sitting on a crowded bus or looking at the glowing windows in an apartment building at night. It's the realization that every single passerby is living a life as vivid and complex as your own, populated with their own ambition, their own routine, and their heart-wrenching decisions. The moments that make a life, and for most people, we only ever get a tiny, tiny glimpse. We can walk through the whole world viewing others as extras in our personal movie, but Sonder shatters that illusion. It forces us to acknowledge that while we might be the protagonists of our own lives, we're background characters in thousands of epic poems and stories that are being lived out around us. We are the background character more often than we're the protagonist. It's all about perspective. For a storyteller, Sonder can be the antidote to flat world building. It's very easy to sit there and world build what's going on with your hero or specific things and events, and have it feel like when they walk into a crowded tavern or a busy spaceport that the background characters are just furniture. Even if they never speak a line of dialogue, the characters in the background should feel like they have somewhere to be. Everybody shouldn't just be watching your protagonist all the time. People should be ignoring them. Maybe it's someone running into them in the street. But these people should have the weight of 1,000 small details, even though you have no idea what those details are. Maybe they have their own 3-month romance. They're carrying something with them. See, when you acknowledge that every character in your story could be the hero and are the hero of a different story, then your setting stops being just a stage set and starts being a living and breathing ecosystem. So how do we use this realization specifically? How do we put this into our prose? And how do we make things feel more profound? Oftentimes, the way to do this is by being ultra specific. Don't say there's a crowd of people. It's actually much more powerful to often describe one person in the crowd doing something specific that has nothing to do with your plot. Who is the person that your character noticed? Is it the woman in an airport gripping a wedding dress bag with white knuckles? That tells the reader she has a story. It's a tiny detail that creates a sense of Sonder in the reader. What's her story? Now, you don't want to go too far, right? You don't want to have a gorilla playing on the drums that you point out and then move on. And honestly, probably the wedding dress is too far as well. But notice a little detail. Instead of a crowd of desperate people, describe the woman who has dirt on her face and tear streaks running through the dirt. This gives us a specific person to focus on, but gives us an understanding that this is representative of the entire crowd. Give us a representative and let our imaginations do the rest of the work. The other thing that we can do is create an NPC with an agenda. If you've played many role-playing games or video games, you know about NPCs. There's no character, there's no player behind this character. But occasionally have a minor character who behaves in a way that is inconvenient for your hero. Have someone who's not a big part of the plot cause a problem. Someone who has their own goal that goes against it. A clerk who won't speed up the process not because they're lazy, but they're distracted by a text message that could change their life. It turns this plot device into a person. The reason behind it doesn't even need to be explained, but slow your character down with ambient things. Let this individual who is only in your story for a specific purpose live out that purpose. The last thing that we can do to create this sense of Sonder in our writing is to have an unresolved thread. Just leaving some stories unfinished can be really powerful. Just like that woman who I sat with on the plane, some characters should enter your protagonist's life, leave a mark, and then disappear. The character not knowing and letting them go can be a powerful way for that person to move on. And it reminds the reader that the world continues to turn even when the camera isn't looking. Sonder is the humble reminder that the world is much, much larger than our perspective. It is the obscure sorrow of knowing we can never truly know everyone. We can never truly know every story. But it's also the joy of knowing that the world is incredibly, incredibly deep. We can create that even without having depth to those people. Yes, that person who is there distracting your main character for a moment, you might only know 2 things about them. But by sharing those 2 specific, unique things with your reader, you create a sense that your world is so deep. So in your next draft, don't just write extras. Write people. Acknowledge that these people have invisible weights that you don't even understand. And give your readers a world that feels as vast and unresolved as real life. You have been listening to Just Another Word podcast with your host, Timothy Vigil. For more information, go to timothyvigil.com.